so you're in the process, and this is what you're feeling. This consciousness is going to be no more very soon. Right? So say, for example, that you run from, say, 70% darkness and then 30% light. You're not, say, in that neutral space, right? So as this consciousness, say, deletes itself, what would happen is that if you're 70% darkness, you would have to be eliminated because again, the darkness doesn't exist in this reality. Okay? So you're going to see a lot of, say, strange deaths and stuff like that. And that's the reason why. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just the next version. Okay. So what happens is now, so we're elevating. Say this was elevation 0 here. So, and then just throwing numbers out. This is elevation. Say now you're at 1,000 feet above. You're at 1,000 feet. Say above consciousness, or above, say, sea level, or but consciousness. So basically the earth, this consciousness comes down, and the earth would be like here, for example. Okay. So what does that mean? So basically in this new consciousness, again, say an hour of time speeds up. You can get more things done if you're aware of it. Otherwise, time becomes a burden. So if you're aware of it, basically those individuals who exist more out of a timeless being rather than a time-bound being, right? In this consciousness, you don't have to create, say, as much density for your body to exist. Buildings, you don't have to create much density. This is where a lot of, say, materials, space-age materials, lighter materials that are stronger, better, they're created from this consciousness, okay? This is where your blood structure, your cellular structure isn't as dense, right? It's got more, say, space between the cells. This is where air quality, air, again, is at a higher elevation. So it's got, say, less oxygen, but it's more, but your, say, your body structure should elevate itself, or create more endurance to live in this consciousness. Okay, so, and this is where we get with COVID. And let me just explain one more thing. So at this higher level of consciousness, we become more efficient, right? Because when you're dense like that, you can't do as much, right? It's just like learning how to walk. You can't do as much if you're just learning. But then at this level of consciousness, humanity starts to, say, be able to run and can do a lot of things. When you start to run, you can flip around, you can dance, you can do a lot of. So that's just that example, right? So, and that's why we're getting more efficient, right? Just like, say, the cell phone example, the beginning of an invention, and at the end of an invention, again, this allows us to do bigger, better, broader things. Okay, so since we didn't elevate ourselves manually from free will into this consciousness, this wave is always coming. Just like the ocean waves, it just keeps coming. It doesn't stop for anything. So if humanity or whatever is not ready, you just get wiped out, just like many civilizations in the past. It doesn't care who you are, what you are. You're not the center of the universe, okay? It'll just like wipe you out if you're not awakened. Just like if you go out in the ocean, the wave comes through, whether you're a good swimmer, bad swimmer, how much money you have, or whatever, you've prayed 10 times a day, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's the wave that just comes through. It's just mechanical. It'll destroy you no matter how enlightened you are, so to speak, okay? So this consciousness like slams down. So there's a couple things that happen here, and this is what happens or what's going to happen, or what's happening for you. So this consciousness will not support your dirty laundry. So you cannot hide your stuff, your garbage. This consciousness, say, forces you to, say, release or remove or uncover your distortions, your patterns, your abuse pattern from the individual level, for example, right? You can't hide your insecurities. You can't hide the facade that you, say, cover up under. You can't create excuses for yourself. You can't blame other people. You can't, say, burden other people at this consciousness. All the truths come out at this consciousness. Okay, not all the truth, but you'd have to go higher and higher, but quite a bit. basically comes out. This is the level where, and that's what's happening. Say the control mechanisms, whether it's your spouse controlling you, your dog controlling you, whatever, you'll start to see the relationship on how that works. You'll start to see entertainers that control you. You start to see, again, like Bill Gates and many other people, come up to the surface. You'll start to see people who are in Satanism and control mechanism and all that coming out, right? Because they're control mechanisms, right? They're the consciousness, I say, that controls. You'll start to see, say, the religious empires and so on start to crack because they can't, say, hide or control people the way they did. I'm not saying religion is bad, but the way they maybe practice it is not good. Financial systems, if it's made under debt, they would have to, say, destroy itself. Because again, this consciousness will not support it. Okay, that's really cool. And it sounds like, yes, we're going to get, say, freedom. But again, it's going to affect you because you can't be a victim anymore at this level. You have to take ownership of your patterns. And that's what many of you are experiencing when you go through the exile process. All the victimization, all the burden, all the things that you blamed on other people, doesn't fucking matter. You have to be responsible for it. It's clear, right? The veils have been removed. Okay. And again, it's a great thing because if you get stronger in this consciousness, you can do much more things, and that's what you want, right? You want a closer connection to yourself. Well, this is how you get it. Another way to get it is you can sell yourself. By the way, sell your soul. It's not the best way, but many people do that and will do that, and I'll explain that in a bit. What else is there? Oh, so what does this have to do with COVID? So remember that I said that it takes less density to create your body or this environment. So for example, say before in this lower level, it would take, say, 10 pounds or 10 joules of energy or 100 joules of energy. Okay, good. I guess joules, is energy. So it takes 100 joules of energy to create, say, a pound of, density, right? Or your hand, for example, right? Because again, it's energy or frequencies that render your hand. Or this pen or the computer or whatever. Again, it takes a certain amount of energy to render, say, a frequency, to render a physical object here. So in this new consciousness, say, instead of 100 joules, it would only take, say, 50 joules. So again, it gets more efficient. But so with 50 joules, you have a lot more energy. And the scientists go, well, you can only create or make so much energy, or you can't destroy or lose energy. So in this new consciousness, again, you can use more energy more efficiently, or rendering your body more efficiently. So what that means is your body becomes, say, less dense, or the space between your cells become, say, wider, more separated, just like, say, oxygen molecules. If you think of it this way, so you have a balloon, right? It's a certain size, right? And you put it in a jar, right? And you vacuum that jar out, right? So that balloon, although the oxygen molecules would only make it this big, in a vacuumed container, you take out, say, you take out the air, and then that balloon expands. Well, it's the same, expands out, and you can try it. By the way, I'm sure you can look at it on YouTube. So that same, say, framework is on this consciousness. So it's the same amount of air, but it's less dense. Okay, so it's the same amount of molecular structure, but it's less dense. So this is where many of you are, say, feeling the effects, especially if you're on the human reset. You're feeling the effects of, say, you becoming a lighter, more, say, complete body. This is like anti-aging, more efficiency, less damage, less disease, because at these levels, there's less of everything that's, say, detrimental for you. Okay, so what does that have to do with COVID? So, and I explained this well before when I first heard of COVID and how it affects, and doctors and everybody were going, well, it's like a flu but a lot worse. But I'm going, no, it's not like a flu. It's more like altitude sickness. It's a mixture of altitude sickness and deep deep, say, atmospheric sickness. So what that means is like when people go deep dives and they come up too fast, right? Their blood becomes, say, toxic or poisonous. So that's the same pattern. So it's a mixture of both, which is interesting. But and again, I saw this when I first heard, and that's what they're finding out now. By the way, that it's more like altitude sickness, and then it's more like altitude sickness. So and the reason why that's important for you is that as you go to this next level, again, there's less air. So imagine that you're, say, at zero elevation, and then all of a sudden you got put into, like, switched off, and then you got put on instantly to like 20,000, an elevation of 20,000 feet, right? Without compression. What would happen to your body? That's what's happening to COVID virus people. And yes, it's the virus that, say, dismantles or starts to disintegrate, say, the cohesiveness of your molecular structure. So as this, say, expands, just like this balloon, your body starts to break apart, your blood vessels start to break apart. And that's what many of the patients who have COVID, who aren't, for some reason or another, who aren't healthy enough, they're starting to see, say, breaking apart. I saw this one guy, he had to have his leg amputated and all that because, again, heavy, severe bleeding and all that. This is the reason why, because, again, the density is actually really happening. You might not believe me, but you can see it in nature. And nature is getting more, say, intense, more brilliant, more, say, efficient. Nature won't allow it to get destroyed anymore. So these are the effects, and I'm telling you, just because of time, how it affects you in the future. New technologies or destructive technologies at this consciousness can exist just because, like, control mechanisms, control systems, abuse patterns can exist in this. You can't abuse nature. You can't abuse your pets. You can't abuse your kids at this level. You'll have to, say, learn how to maintain your own integrity at this level. So at this level, new technologies will come up, new ways of, say, planting things, new ways of energy, new ways of anything. And it goes really against, and again, Bill Gates comes up, he's got this thing where it's carbon and then it equals people and this and that. And that equation is just total bullshit, because it's so damn simplified, and basically he just wants to say that zero population, because that's the only effect. There's so many different ways that, those guys, there's so many different variables that they didn't even think of on how to, and it's not about carbon emissions coming down. And again, I'm going on a tangent. It's from this one of my counsels. So don't believe in that stuff, okay? That's not the only way. But anyway, the mechanisms, you'll see the physics of this reality change, and you're seeing it already. The magnetic structure of the Earth is changing, all those things changing. It's because of this new consciousness, again, more efficiency on how this reality is created, work. So that explains, say, the COVID, why it's so destructive, and then, say, the consciousness, and then this is where you get 5G and all that stuff. It just, so from this consciousness, again, that has to, say, become more expansive, you would get you would get technologies that would, say, destroy the molecular structure of air, hence 5G and so on like that, right? Because, again, that consciousness demands that this expands. We're not doing it the right way. But I'm not going to talk about that. So let's see. What else? So as we go, another thing. So basically, as this consciousness escapes or falls away, many of you might experience, say, dead relatives around you, or memories of dead relatives, or it's like, hey, I wonder how Uncle Harry is and all that stuff. So let me just explain that. So basically, most people don't know how to die properly. They don't awaken, and they don't escape the realities of time and space. They stay here without a body, because you don't need to render a body to stay here. You have that consciousness, okay? So basically what happens is that you die, and then instead of staying here in dense form, you basically go to this consciousness, the next layer up. Okay, and that's where most unfortunately dead people like exist. I know it's out there, but you'll see examples of this in the next few months. Okay. Anyway, if this reality is falling and this is coming into its play, this reality won't, because this is gone. It was a support mechanism for this reality consciousness to come up. Those dead people have nowhere to go. So, and again, you're coming into the reality that they're existing. So you're going to see a lot of, say, macabre things happen because of death or dead people intermingling with the living. Okay? I know it sounds strange, but you're going to see a ton of that stuff come up. Okay, and then you go, oh, Moss did a lecture on this. Okay, you don't have to believe me now, but again, just wait in the future. You'll see people transform into, say, the people of the dead, people who control, or go, hey, you look like, say, Aunt Sally now. Well, the reason why is Aunt Sally just, say, penetrated you and took over. Okay, and again, if you don't believe me, people who have been taken over, you know what I mean. So that's the reason why. Okay, so those are all the outcomings. People who control, again, they'll be showing up. People who are, say, control people, or like satanic worshipers and so on. Again, they need people, and I'm going to do a podcast. It's called The Science of Satan. Okay, to get the real story on that. Okay, because it's not what you think. It's totally different. Okay. So those individuals, again, they get exposed at this level. You'll see a lot of, say, people who know the truth will commit suicide, or they'll get exposed, or they'll get indicted. Again, they cannot hide. Furthermore, say, government systems that have been controlled by whatever darkness, right, by the elites and so on like that. Those government systems, right, that have been, say, infiltrated through, the police, the judges, whatever else, the politicians, the governors, and so on. They're all part of that, say, dark system, so to speak. Well, they can't do what they do, so they start to lose control, and then, say, the brilliance starts to, say, show up. Does that make sense? The truth starts to show up. This is people, and people get accountable for, say, what they do. Okay. That makes sense to you. So it's a really fantastic time to be alive. Let's see. So if you're ready, okay. If you're ready, what'll happen is that you're gonna go into this realm brilliantly, and many of you who are XI. Many of you who are an XI, this is where you're seeing that, there's a lot of chaos around you, but what's happening for you is that there's a lot of chaos around you, but it's like, Moss, I see all that chaos around me, but why am I, feeling so good and solid and stable? Well, this is the reason why, because you're getting elevated into this consciousness effortlessly. Okay, everybody else has to get pushed into the new consciousness and deal with their issues and everything else that exists in this lower consciousness. Again, because those things don't exist here. So, anything else? Just give me a second, okay? Again, just tapping into questions. So again, back to, say, control or Satan. So if people get exposed, again, like Satan worshippers and stuff, I'm not going to get into all the detail. They get exposed, right? But again, those individuals need more control. They need to consume more, say souls or spirits. Okay, so why that is because your soul and spirit is less dense, and your physical flesh is less dense at this level. Okay, so what that means is that you're not getting, say, the same amount of, say, nutrition as you would with dense bodies. Okay, unfortunately. So I'm not going to get into all the details. That's science of Satan coming up, but again, so those people are gonna get exposed. It's like, yeah, we love it. We love, and they're gonna try to, and this is why it's important. That's why I'm telling you this. They're gonna try to recruit more people to come onto their camp. But if you want to be controlled, yes, you might have the pleasures of this reality, but it's dark as hell, and it's not. Again, look at all those people. They're not happy, right? Because they need to consume more and more and more. Again, I'll talk about that. So don't get, say, fooled or get sucked into, say, the darkness, although it might sound really good. So I'm just giving you a heads up warning because, some of your favorite entertainers, like Madonna or whoever, that are out there, they're promoting this and they're promoting that. And it's like, hey, let's do a mass prayer. Let's do all this and then save the people. If it doesn't feel right, if you have, say, if you felt that frequency, that's why it pushed you into that space. Again, if you didn't go into it, you're good to go. But if you did go into it and you feel that way, although it sounds like, oh, wow, it's my favorite singer, and then they're doing world peace to say, for the COVID virus, it's not about that. It's like sucking you in so they can start to suck the life out of you. Okay. Again, if you don't believe me, give it a try and see what I mean. And you'll be awakened, by the way, because again, that consciousness dictates that you have to see the truth as you get sucked in.